All right, welcome back to another episode of Challenging the Boys. I am your host, Stephen Chalacombe, and thankfully again, as most times, both of the co-hosts are here, Stash and Will. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight? How is your
Feeling
how's
ready.
your off season going?
Better than the Cowboys.
Better than Kellen Moore. Oh wait, never mind. He did get hired,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
He's doing really good.
he's
I
gonna
think a
go to
lot.
a
Go ahead.
he's gonna go to another team that's got no wide receivers though.
Damn, they got
Yeah,
Keenan Allen.
I think a lot of
He's
people would
healthy
argue
all
he
the
got
time.
an upgrade though, right? At literal quarterback position. I mean, I think
Oh yeah,
that's to be determined, but I think a lot of people would make that argument.
I would agree.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. All right, well, I mean you just take it away from here. I think you have a topic at hand for us, so I guess take us on an adventure.
Oh, I no, I thought it was important that well, first of all, Brian Schottenheimer is the offensive coordinator.
Marty.
He was here last year as a consultant or whatever word they use, right?
Yep.
But he's got plenty of experience in the NFL. He had like his most recent stint, I think, before joining the Cowboys, he was with Seattle. I think for 4 years he was the offensive coordinator, and 3 of the 4 years they had a top 10 offense, so that's not bad. And that's with a bad drafting team and no offensive line for the last decade. I think that's maybe there's something to talk about there. Maybe there is positives. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think he's offensive coordinator in name only. Like if we're supposed to believe what's coming out of Dallas is that Mike McCarthy's calling the plays, so he's just
Yeah,
like offensive coordinator to work with McCarthy, which hey, he's been around the league for a while, so that shouldn't be too hard for him. It's not like it's a college guy coming in to try to make his name or anything like that,
true.
who's going to butt heads with McCarthy. So, but it should. I mean, I don't know. They needed. We talked about this in previous episodes. They needed a change. So
I mean,
this is
he's a
Is
professional.
yeah.
You know,
I is
you know.
man, this is I think where we vastly differ, right?
Okay.
And I think maybe me and Stash mainly. Well, actually, I don't know. How do you feel about this, Will?
How
I
about
guess.
I'm the leader.
Oh,
I'm leading the
okay. That's
discussion,
how
so
it
you answer
goes.
it first. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so I mean, I guess it to be short, I don't like it. Granted, as Stash has already pointed out, McCarthy's calling plays. I think the majority of us, the Dallas fan base would put money on it that it's going to be McCarthy's playbook with some sort of, I'm sure, twist here and there, whatever. Um, so this is kind of like a silly hire. But even if they were to remotely take this hire serious and take his input, what does this do for fucking anyone? Right? Like, so I was just briefly looking up because I mean, I don't know much about fucking Brian Schottenheimer. I know some of his credentials from the past, but he's never really been a huge name. So the biggest thing here that this article wants to point out, in short, Schottenheimer loves to lean on the run.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. He could push the Cowboys to make inside zone their primary run concept. That's a fucking horrible idea, considering their interior offensive line is probably the weakest part of their interior or their weakest part of their line.
As of right now,
As of right now, sure. And I'm not saying they're gonna run it on first, second, and third down up the gut, but if that's this dude's bread and butter, like that's not exciting to me. I think it was a mistake, even if it was in title. I told both of you guys, I don't know, a couple days ago, I was way more interested in. I forget the names, but it was the Rams quarterback coach and Panthers running back coach.
he could
Um,
still be here.
what?
He could still come because they don't have a
Sure.
running backs coach
Yeah,
yet.
no, yeah, they absolutely could, but I mean, yeah, your running back coach is not going to be taken. Their input isn't going to be taken nearly as heavy as your offensive coordinator. At least I would think. Um, I think those just would have been more exciting hires. It would have shown a change of philosophy from the Joneses, which I mean, not that I was expecting change, but I would like to see change. So
Well, this was typical Joneses. If you I mean you probably know. I mean they brought in the running backs coach from Carolina to interview for the offensive coordinator position when all they really wanted to do was give him the running back position.
Uh,
Was his name Knox?
I
What the
hate
heck was the guy's name?
Nixon, I
Why am I
think, or
saying
Mixon.
Knox?
I'd have to look it up. And I actually hate to say this. That dude was only hired, or excuse me, he was only interviewed because he was black. I I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
They
maybe, yeah,
were,
maybe, yeah.
I hate to say that, and I would like to think Jones and their family doesn't think like that, and hopefully they don't, right? Like I'm not out here accusing them of that, but I I just can't help but to think that they only
It,
interviewed that dude because he was black.
they interviewed him because he was black and because they wanted him to be their running back coach. So they bring him in for the offensive coordinator position to get to know him. And if they thought it went well, they were always hiring Schottenheimer. That
Yeah,
was a given. I
I
don't know
think that's
why
bad.
you thought they were going somewhere else.
I think it's bad philosophy though. I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's
it's
just
not a great philosophy, but
So
they were always going to go with somebody who worked well with McCarthy.
yeah, I was to say, let me phrase it this
when
way
is
then.
when has Schottenheimer ever worked well with McCarthy?
They were together, I think, in how do you want to hear this? I guess would have had to been in Green Bay.
Or
I
if
don't
somewhere else, if they
yeah, I
were
don't think
both there.
Schottenheimer's old enough to be with McCarthy in San Francisco. Either way, but or so how about we phrase it this way? If we agree that, I mean, because I don't care about the hire is just whatever. It doesn't.
Yeah, I agree.
But they were never gonna do anything. I think that was gonna blow any of us out of the water, right? Like
No.
I don't know name whoever the guy would have blown us out of the water. I don't think that was ever happening anyway. Because don't you think that this is them giving Dak and McCarthy their last, or it's mostly McCarthy because in order for them to field of the best football team they possibly can next year, they more than likely have to extend Dak to free up the money. So, Dak is more than likely here no matter what. Whether you think he's a bad quarterback or a good quarterback, in order to field the rest of the team, they kind of have to do that,
Mhm.
right? So, do you think that okay, if this is truly McCarthy's last year, if they don't do better, then this is McCarthy out of the way. And I'm sure they didn't give Schottenheimer any money, because he's just like kind of a retread. Usually, retreads don't get any money,
Yeah,
compared to like
right.
the hot young name. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's pretty valid. And Will, you had actually mentioned something similar to this, I don't know, a couple episodes ago, in the sense that when we were talking about firing, or not firing, moving on from some of their coaches, that um, Jerry Jones thought it was kind of silly that they had this many assistant coaches on the staff. I don't know what the number was, but
They had
I
29 total
I did
coaches.
hear that on a Broadus podcast, and I was like, I guess there is some validity to that. Um, and that's really why we saw a lot of them walk or again not be rehired or whatever. So yeah, I think there's definitely validity to him probably not getting paid a lot of money because Jerry doesn't see why he would pay him a lot of money, or Steven, whoever's making that call right
Sure,
now.
or collective. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you think, Stash?
Yeah, I like I said, I think if you followed the T feathers or whatever, Schottenheimer was going to be the dude. So they interviewed guys to maybe sit to follow certain rules, maybe just to see what else was out there. If they didn't get like overwhelmed, they were just falling back on Schottenheimer. And
Yeah,
maybe if they did like this dude from Carolina, maybe they'd offer him another job see if he'd take it, get him in the building, and if they like him, maybe they keep him around. I don't know if things work out, but it's like you said, it's McCarthy's show, and if this is going to be his last year or 2 years, let him have it. Let him go out on his sword and see what he can do. He was forced to hire Kellen in the first place. We all know that. So
Yeah.
let him.
so
He's an offensive guy supposedly, so let him run his offense and run the team how he wants to run it, for
before you
better or
go,
for worse.
Steve, what do you think that 'cause that's kind of how I always took it, or how I understood it, or how I maybe just whatever they said was that the Joneses wanted to keep Kellen Moore around for either because he was their guy, you know what I mean, that type of thing, maybe for the future head coach or whatever, kind of like how they basically did Jason Garrett, right? Or and McCarthy it was forced upon McCarthy, right? Or what other people were saying that was McCarthy was so goddamn lazy that he didn't want to do any of the work, so that's why they kept Moore in. You know what I mean? Because he was supposed to be innovative and on top of the thing. So which one do you think? Which way do you think that was? Or is it both? Or something else?
I what are you asking? Do we think
Yeah,
why do we think McCarthy kept Kellen Moore originally, or why they
right.
moved on from him?
Did he not have a choice, or did he was he just lazy and just was? Because I heard that before too, is that he was just lazy and didn't want to do the play calling. So okay, we got this young
I
Kellen Moore here. Let's just let him do the work, and I'll
I
just be the the Jason Garrett at the end.
yeah, I think it was a combination of, McCarthy. I mean, on his way out of uh, Green Bay, he wasn't calling plays, right? Like their front
Yeah,
office or whoever makes their decisions over there decided McCarthy could not call plays and manage the team at the same time. That's a known fact. That's not something I just pulled out of my
groundbreaking.
ass.
Yeah.
So I think it is absolutely a mixture of him probably feeling, maybe a lack of confidence, or maybe just not wanting to be in the same position where he's calling plays and managing the game, and again a combination of that with Jerry having this new shiny toy that he could compare to Sean McVay, or like the young flashy offensive coordinator or offensive minded
I mean,
coach.
they were good. The offense was good when Cullen was offensive coordinator and during Dallas's years. It just a la Mark Jackson and the Golden State Warriors, they couldn't get over the hump.
Yeah,
So they
it's
needed to
true. Yeah.
try something new.
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you guys. I assume, or do either one of you have anything else kind of to add to this kind of topic, or can I just tinker it a little bit
Tinker, or I'm good.
on board? So, would we all agree that the person this most affects or helps or hinders would be Dak?
I mean, yeah,
Because it's straight focus towards him.
it's all on him because this is where we find out who's like, was it Kellen? Was it Kellen and Dak? Is it Dak? Is it McCarthy? I don't. But this is where you'll get answers. Unfortunately, it
Uh,
might be a year too late because, as you just said, to make the moves that they probably need to move, they need to extend him. So, I mean, you probably want to have your answers ahead of time. But
True.
well, that's why. So I think with the idea of we have to assume that Dallas is going to extend Dak. I mean, we don't have to assume that, but I
I'd be
don't want that to
surprised.
happen. But I would be surprised if they did not extend him, right? Like I mean, he's a franchise quarterback. He's a quarterback you can win with. He's just not a quarterback you're going to win because of, at least when you need him to. With that being said, I think that's why that actually puts more pressure on McCarthy, right? Because if you extend Dak, he's not going anywhere next year, regardless of how bad he plays. He would quite literally have to die for him to disappear if they extend him.
Oh,
So I mean it's true, right? Like I mean he could play like dog shit, but if you're paying a dude $40 million, you don't just
yeah.
you can't just make him disappear unless he dies. And then you're still, I guess, technically paying for him. I'm not really sure how that works, but hopefully we don't have to get there. But like I was saying, I think that puts more pressure on McCarthy because if Dak and the team fails, then it's on McCarthy. Like, I mean, he's the dude losing the job at the end of the year, not Dak if he's extended.
what does it? Here's a question. What theoretically, what does it say if Dallas does not extend Dak and just goes to the season with the current contract and McCarthy? Does
I mean,
that change your thought process on
well,
who the
yeah,
pressure's
because
on?
I think that says we're willing to gamble. Unfortunately, again, we're willing to be in a position to move on from you if we need to, but then we're also willing to, unfortunately, have to pay you again if you play up to it.
Yeah,
Um,
as you say, last time they did like that happen, Dak had a good season until he broke his ankle. But
yeah, I mean, if they don't, yeah, I mean, you're right. He was, I know it was early in the season, but he was putting up MVP stats.
Yeah.
There were times that this last year he was too, right? It just wasn't consistent enough. Um, and I'm not saying he could have won MVP for all y'all fucking wild people out there. Just saying on occasion he can play at that level. But if they don't extend Dak, I I mean, they have to go to an NFC Championship next year. If they don't, I mean, regardless, and if he doesn't, barring injury, I mean, he's just got to move on, man.
And I mean, if I mean that's what most people say too. If they don't go to an NFC Championship game, even if they, I mean, McCarthy would be gone for that reason then too, because there's that would be the end of his progression if you believe that.
No, I don't think I don't think that would be the same thing, right? Like I think
Yeah,
I think if they don't extend Dak and they make it to an NFC Championship game, I think they both come back. Um, you know, barring some sort of wild context we obviously don't have. I think if they don't make an NFC Championship game, like if they make it to the divisional round again, I mean, how do you if I was the owner, sure. I mean, or I would definitely look at it, right? But like, how does Jerry Jones or Steven Jones, whoever's making the decision, how do you fire a dude who, in the 4 years he's been your head coach, has made it to the divisional round twice, the wild card once, and the only year he didn't, his starting quarterback was out for 12 games. I don't
true.
like, and that's
And
really
one of the
hard.
years and one of the years he got to the playoffs, his starting quarterback was gone for 5 games,
Oh yeah,
which
yeah. So I
is
mean, that's
pretty impressive.
would be kind of hard to do. I quite honestly, I would be for it though. Just I don't know. I mean, at some point the divisional round is not enough. But
Yeah.
again, there's context obviously we don't have to that right now.
Okay, so I do have one more question that would just go to that. You guys okay? You guys got everything out you need to say on the matter?
I am not okay.
Okay. So I don't know if either one of you guys are familiar with Patrick C. Without the C. Walker.
Yep.
He works at Dallas Cowboys, and so I'm
I
just listening. I'm not,
Never
I mean,
seen the
I
guy.
can't say
This
I'm
is
a
gonna
fan
be
or
good.
anything. I mean, I'm pretty new to him or whatever, but he went over all the interceptions from the past season from Dak, okay? And he said, and this is what he said. I didn't go back every one and look at them myself, but he went back and watched all the videos. 60% of the interceptions were on him, whether they were bad throws, bad,
So how many
not seeing it right or whatever, right? And 40% of them were on, wide receivers tipping him up or,
how many does
you-
that equal though?
well, how many
He
interceptions did he throw?
threw
Stash, you're the
15. He threw
accountant,
15.
okay?
So what? 8 and 6, or well, shit,
Roughly. So
eight
yeah,
and
eight
Okay,
and
so
seven,
seven.
give or
so
take,
so
or 9 and 6.
those are the numbers. Only because this is the most interceptions he's ever thrown. He's never really been an interception quarterback. We all agree with that. Or would all say that before this year, he'd never really had a problem with turnovers. But my point is that so that was just to lay the groundwork. But his point was, and I hadn't heard anybody else say this yet. Maybe you guys have because you guys are a little more spread out
Oh yeah.
than I am when it comes to gaining the knowledge from more people. Is that do you guys think that there was the possibility of that he came back from the thumb injury and he wasn't able to grip the ball? I mean, he was able to grip the ball well enough that he could make the throws that he normally did, but it was just different, or he didn't have the proper grip, but he was, to make all the throws he was, and that's why he was overshooting or undershooting some throws that he normally couldn't make, or he was forcing it a little bit more because he knew he didn't have the proper touch or whatever that he normally would have. Is there anything to that?
I don't think so. I think it was just pure. I mean, I think it was a combination of put more pressure was put on him in multiple fashions. In that one, hey, you got the big contract now, so hey, time to live up. That's like his internal pressure of him. Hey, now I got this money, I got to prove it. And the fact that the team decided to, good or bad, take away his weapons and put less players around him. So instead of having players who could separate and get more separation, he had to throw into tighter windows. And with the routes that Dallas ran, a lot of option routes was in Kellen Moore's uh, scheme.
Yep, it's tree or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it just means there's lots of room for mistakes on both sides, whether it be QB, wide receiver, and things like that. I think that whole combination just kind of led to what we saw was a lot more contested passes, and that resulted in 15 interceptions.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I tend to agree. So, do you have anything else, Steve?
Yeah, no, I agree with Stash. I don't think there's anything to it. I mean, maybe I'm sure a small percentage, but and maybe I'm gonna get a little crazy here, and I just thought of this, but
Oh.
so in the last, we'll say 5 years, maybe 6, I forget when Jalen Smith was drafted, but
Oh no.
I mean, the Cowboys
Except
medical staff might be the best in the NFL, right? Like we go back to Jalen Smith, the dude had like degenerative fucking nerve disease or something in his knee, right? Like they assisted in his rehabilitation from that. If not, did the entire rehabilitation. I'm sure there were some outside third parties there, whatever, blah blah blah. Um, their fucking linebacker this year, uh, was it Clark?
Yeah.
Had like spinal fusion surgery in the offseason, right? I'm not saying that was the
Yeah.
Dallas medical staff, but they helped with the rehabilitation from that, and he saw the field this year. There were people out there that didn't think in both of those cases that either of those players would ever play football again. I would I don't I would probably laugh at anybody who was like, man, yeah, Dak's thumb was just it wasn't healed enough. Like, fuck you, man. Not you and not
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Walker,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm sure he's just spitballing ideas, but I don't know. Like, that medical staff has done some pretty phenomenal stuff over the years, and those are just the two that come to mind, right? Like Leighton Vander Esch, he had neck issues, right? And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
people think he's on roids now. Maybe he is. Um,
Oh,
he's
breaking news. Okay.
maybe, yeah. You heard it here
We're getting
first.
famous.
Um, but I don't think there's coincidences. I guess I don't know. Bad year, whatever it is you call it. I don't think it was his thumb. I don't think enough of it was his thumb to give it an excuse.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't heard that before. I just wanted to run it by you guys, see what you
Sure,
guys thought on the situation.
it's fair.
I didn't hear. Yeah, I mean, it didn't look like there was any grip issues. I mean, he wasn't having trouble catching snaps or anything like that. Didn't seem like he had trouble throwing the ball. I mean, he still had some throws that he could just rip in there to CD
That's
and
true.
things like
True.
that. So I never heard that. I don't think it was an
I
issue.
mean, 3rd and 30 happens, right? Like
Yeah.
and that was probably
Okay, fair
the,
enough.
the furthest he's ever thrown, right? Like I'm sure his arm strength wasn't affected, but that was a fucking dime too. I also know
Okay.
it was well after his thumb. That was well into the season, but
True.
he did have plenty of interceptions after that. So, uh, hey man, maybe that's why he didn't hit CD on that fucking easy touchdown in the playoff game against San Fran. His fucking thumb.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll never know, right?
Nope. Oh well.
Do you want to wrap this one up with your spiel, and then we'll go into another one?
Sure.